Welcome to Al Qissa, the place where horror stories await to haunt your nights. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the latest stories. If you enjoy this story, give it a like and share it with your friends. Who knows, they might have their own spooky stories to tell. Turn off the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to embrace the darkness tonight. Title: The Curse of Bukit Perindu, The Lonely Road. It was a quiet night in Jelebu, Negeri Sembilan. Rahmat, a factory worker, was riding his motorcycle home after working overtime. The clock on his phone showed 12:30 a.m. The road stretched ahead, dark and deserted, save for the faint glow of streetlights scattered along the way. Surrounding the road were dense trees, their shadows dancing eerily in the dim light. The air was thick with the earthy scent of the jungle after an evening drizzle. The factory where Rahmat worked was located on the outskirts of Jelebu, and the route home required him to pass through Bukit Perindu, a secluded hill known for its eerie reputation. The hill was surrounded by thick forests, and the road had sharp turns and steep inclines. Local villagers often spoke in hushed tones about strange occurrences in the area, but Rahmat had always dismissed such tales. As he approached a sharp bend near the peak of Bukit Perindu, a sudden chill swept through the air. The sound of crickets and frogs faded, leaving an unsettling silence. Rahmat frowned and slowed his motorcycle. "That's strange. Why does it smell like something's rotting?" he muttered, sniffing the air. The stench was overpowering, like decaying meat. Stopping his bike at the side of the road, Rahmat turned on his phone's flashlight and scanned the area. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Shrugging it off as a dead animal somewhere nearby, he mounted his bike again. The girl by the road. As Rahmat was about to rev up the engine, his flashlight caught something, or someone, standing by the roadside. It was a girl dressed in a white baju kurung. Her long black hair obscured her face, and she stood unnervingly still. Rahmat's heart skipped a beat. "Hello? Are you okay?" he called out, his voice echoing faintly in the night. The girl didn't respond. She simply raised her hand and pointed down the road. Rahmat hesitated. A strange unease crept over him, but he convinced himself it was nothing. She might be stranded, he thought. He approached the girl slowly, noticing that her feet were bare. "It's dangerous to be out here at this hour. Do you need a ride?" The girl nodded but said nothing. Rahmat handed her his spare helmet, and she climbed onto the back of his motorcycle. The ride down the hill was silent, except for the hum of the engine. Then Rahmat heard it, faint sobbing behind him. "Hey, are you crying?" he asked, trying to glance over his shoulder. The girl didn't answer. Instead, the sobbing grew louder, turning into a wail. Rahmat's palms began to sweat. "Miss, are you okay? Do you want me to stop?" Before he could react further, the sobbing morphed into a chilling, high-pitched laughter. Rahmat's blood turned cold. He turned his head sharply and nearly crashed the bike when he saw her. Her face was now visible, pale and gaunt, with empty black eyes and a mouth twisted into an unnatural grin. Her hair writhed as though alive, and her hands gripped his shoulders with a force that felt inhuman. The haunted Surau. Panicking, Rahmat sped down the hill. The trees around him seemed to close in, their shadows stretching like claws. Desperate, he spotted a small, dilapidated Surau prayer hall by the roadside and swerved into its gravel driveway. He leapt off his motorcycle, stumbling as he looked around wildly. The girl was gone. His bike, however, bore deep scratch marks on the seat. The Surau was barely lit, its wooden walls worn with age. An old oil lamp flickered in the corner, casting eerie shadows. Inside, an elderly man in a white juba sat cross-legged, reading from the Quran. "Pakcik, help me!" Rahmat gasped, rushing into the Surau. The man looked up calmly. "What is it, anak muda?" You look like you've seen a ghost." Rahmat spilled his story in a breathless rush. The old man listened intently, his expression grave. When Rahmat mentioned the girl, the man's eyes narrowed. "You should not have stopped on Bukit Perindu," the man said. "That place is cursed. Many who pass through at night see things they shouldn't." Rahmat was shaking. "But I didn't mean to. I thought she needed help." The man gestured to Rahmat's bag. "Do you have anything unusual with you?" Rahmat hesitated, then opened his bag. He pulled out a small wooden bracelet he'd found earlier that day in the factory storage room. It was intricately carved, but something about it felt off. The old man's face darkened. "This bracelet belongs to her. You disturbed her rest." Rahmat's stomach dropped. "What do I do now?" The old man stood, chanting softly as he sprinkled water from a small bottle over Rahmat. He took the bracelet and threw it into the forest behind the surau. "Leave it here, and when you return home, make sure you perform your prayers. This may not be the last time she comes for you." The final encounter. Feeling slightly reassured, Rahmat thanked the man and rode home, his heart still pounding. The journey back to his kampung was eerily quiet, but when he finally reached his house, he locked the door and sat down, his hands trembling. He thought the ordeal was over, until he heard a soft knock on his window. Rahmat. His name was whispered, almost like a hiss. He froze, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, he turned his head toward the window. There she was, the girl from the hill, her face pressed against the glass, her empty eyes staring directly at him. Rahmat didn't sleep that night. By morning, he sought help from a local ustaz, who performed a cleansing ritual at his home. Although the disturbances ceased, Rahman never fully recovered from the trauma. From that day on, he avoided Bukit Perindu at all costs, and warned his colleagues never to take anything from the factory, no matter how harmless it seemed. The villagers say the spirit of Bukit Perindu still lingers, waiting for her next unsuspecting victim. The story has come to an end. Thank you for your participation. We hope you enjoyed the story. See you again in the next story on the All Kisa channel.